Welcome back, everyone. Here we are in December now of 2019, and the uranium price is still around 26 bucks. And so I thought I would just finally get all of this together and run through a rather detailed look at the uranium bull thesis heading into 2020. Now, although this series is probably going to be quite extensive, this video is more so an introduction. So I'm mainly going to be talking about a few concepts and things to ways of understanding and analogies and stories. So I hope it's entertaining. Now, as I said, this is going to be probably a fairly detailed run through of the uranium bull thesis. I had intended on making this one longer video. Then it occurred to me, although some people have been waiting on this uranium bull market for, I don't know, 5, 6, however long you've been waiting, nobody has enough patience to have me go through all the slides in one video. So I'm going to break it into pieces, and I'm hoping that those pieces, once you kind of look at them individually, put them together, think about them, will assemble the full detailed investment case in uranium. And it is a very niche sector, so I'm hoping that this will help people that maybe saw one or two things, but maybe didn't think about one or two others. This hope is that they will help them better understand the full picture of the market. So I am very much a value investor at heart. I try and buy things that are undervalued and going to go up eventually, is the hope. Now, I came to uranium for the ride from the 20s to the 50s, where the production can come back online and there would be enough uranium and maybe some new mines, but 20s to 50s, that's what I came for. But as I put the pieces together, as I look at in more detail the readiness of supply and a whole bunch of other factors, and the market stayed lower, I started putting together some ideas or and seeing some arguments, I guess you could say, of why there's potential for people to react differently from just a logical move from the 20s to 50s and then come back online. Now, I'm not saying this has to happen, the people losing their logical thought processes, but it doesn't have to be one or the other. If the price goes to where it logically goes and then stops, and then people think about it and everything makes sense, we don't go much higher because certain things fall into place, okay, that's fine. But as I look at the pieces, as I kind of try and understand the uranium market better every day, it really is a different beast. And I think I've come up with different ways of playing it, different strategies, if you will. When you come to uranium, you probably see a few things, one or two things, and you're like, wow, there's reason to be bullish. See three or four things, and you're like, okay, there's a fairly confident reason to be bullish. Once you put everything together, look at history, you kind of think, okay, those reasons still exist, but what if more? Now, this is because I think that when I look at uranium, I see a market that's kind of, I see, here's an analogy. It's like there's a game of checkers and chess simultaneously going on the same board. And that's kind of what's going on in the uranium market. Because realistically, only about half the market cares about economics. Well, intensely cares about economics at least. Now, the other image I want people to keep in mind through these videos is two people holding a rope. Now, there's some slack in this rope, but picture one person waves the rope and creates a wave in the rope. The person on the other side is not watching the wave come towards them. They won't feel the wave. And the first person can know that the wave is going through the rope, the action has been taken and it's moving forward, and they can see it even though it hasn't been felt at the other side. And so just think about this type of scenario for different elements of this series of videos. What inspired me to make this video? Well, it was the thought, do I have enough uranium? And by uranium, I meant uranium-related equities. Because I recently updated my assumptions, and I saw some opinions on when we're going to move or whatever, and I'm just like thinking, okay, well, let me update and have a look and see when I think that'll happen. And so I did. I made a fresh look, added some assumptions, took some numbers and kind of ran with it. And I was kind of surprised because I don't update this and stare at it every day because 90% of the time nothing happens. And so staring at it feels to me counterproductive because I'm just focused on it. It's like, why not today? Well, why not tomorrow? It day by day, nothing really happens. But the point is, I look at it and I realized that I had really lost track of time because I hadn't really updated and looked at where we are in a while because I have numbers, but I didn't really sink in that we're almost in 2020. And uranium, as I'll get to later, moves very slowly. So I was kind of surprised by how far we had come. Now, as many of you know, I really don't like hyping things, and so I won't say that there's definitely going to be uranium 2020. But when I look at well, everything really, I think that it is probable. It doesn't need to happen. Does the price of uranium need to go up in 2020? Need to, I'll go with no, because there is above ground supply and there's always the possibility that utilities can run down their inventory even further. Remember the rope. There is some slack in the system somewhere, but that is moving down to the end of the line. Now the question is always how much slack, and my thought at this point is some, but really not enough for this to keep happening much longer. And the longer it takes for everything to wake up, the much better, much better. So as to when are we? I remember back in maybe April, approximately 8-ish months ago, when people were saying, maybe March, whatever, but people were saying, oh, it's been so long, the uranium stocks had just been moving, it has to go, it must be having to move now. And my response was, I think another year is possible. I don't know that it's likely. I think it's possible. But I'm not sure 2 is. And if it's 2, you probably will be very happy in 3. My point with all this is that was 8 months ago, 8 of the 12 months in how long I said back then that it could happen. Now, I'm not saying I'm right. could move tomorrow, and then it didn't last 12 months. But my point is that 2021 is possible, but when I see people talking about 2023 to 2025, that I don't really see without some major 180 in, I don't know, China's direction or some big change somewhere. Because on the current path, I really don't see it taking that long. But yeah, so basically, I disagree with the John Borshoff view. Through this whole thing, there's no exact timing where now's it, buy now, market will take off now. We're waiting on a bunch of people to make a bunch of decisions that they'll make once they realize they should make them. Now, that being said, if we get to the point later this year when Kazatomprom, that is, guides down the 2022 production and tells the market, that is a big significant kick in the pants, if you will. And but even before that, every day there that we don't move up, the likelihood of some type of drastic overshoot of the prices becomes more and more likely. Now, on the Kazatomprom point, I will talk much more about that later, but there has been talk already that they delayed their capex increase out to 2021, which would mean, in theory, they've probably already guided down for 2022, but they haven't directly said that yet. So more on that later. Now, if anyone's looking for a graphical representation, if you will, of what I said in terms of the longer we wait, the more likely there's a more drastic type overshoot scenario. This is the chart because there's a certain point in the future where production prices need to be, with that scenario, need to be. So the longer we stay under, the less close we are to production at that point, and the more supply gets drained down, meaning in the future, we need to get there quicker and things take time. So, well, that green line on this chart is probably kind of boring now. At the peak or at the overshoot part of the cycle, which one do you want? So if anyone's wondering, well, why are you so bullish now when obviously, as all the people can see, according to all the charts that kind of exist out there, why are you bullish now when the deficit only emerges in 2022 or 2023? Shouldn't that be when the price finally moves? Well, when are the utilities going to be ordering fuel for that point when the demand is outpacing the potential supply? Because if they need new fuel those years, A, the existing supply isn't on right now. And B, if you need uranium from a new mine in 2023 or 2024, you probably need to finance it in 2020. And you probably need to signal that to the market. Now, the signaling in uranium is rather bad. So could it take longer? Yes, but that's part of the game. But the one point I wanted to make here is, for all intents and purposes, we are further in the future than 2020 that we're heading into. And as many of you know, if nothing happens, things just get better at an increasing rate. Future demand grows, new reactors start going to construction, mines go offline, others deplete, and then go offline forever. and very little money, and I'll talk more about this later, very little money goes into finding and replacing the uranium. So if you thought the supply and demand was good now, if nothing happens on the price side, well, guess what? There's a whole bunch of reactors coming online in 2020, and then there's some more in 2021, and then there's some more in 2022. And this trend looks like it is continuing of reactors being built. And in the meantime, at these prices, supply is not. And if you were to think of it in math terms, you're looking at the area inside a parabola. And as the parabola goes further in whatever direction you want to draw it, it gets bigger in two directions. So trying to fill that area gets faster, harder at a increasing rate. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you've made it to this point, I applaud you. If you enjoyed, you might also enjoy the other episodes in this series, and they will be all out eventually, and probably some have been released already. As always, nothing I say is investment advice. This is all just what I'm seeing, how I'm thinking about the sector, and what I view as relevant. So with that, I will leave you there and have a great day.